Like many fathers and sons, Barney Hodges, Sr. and Jr., liked to kid with one another.
The trees are supposed to be 4 feet, and then when I wasn't looking, Dad moved them to 5 feet over there.
Well, they were bigger trees.
They screwed the trees up for life.
The Hodges own and operate Sunrise Orchards in Cornwall. They grow apples on 200 acres and sell their entire crop wholesale. The packing line hums in the winter and spring, and by the time last year's crop is packed and shipped, the buds are on the trees and the process begins again. Sunrise Orchards was started by Hodges Sr. as a business partnership. When his partner left the day-to-day operations in 1994, Hodges was advised to change the business structure from a partnership to a corporation.
My accountant seemed to advise me that way, and I think it was probably a mistake at that time because we weren't making money. If you're making good money, then it's good to have a corporation, but if you're losing money, you're better off without having a corporation.
Hodges was strictly a grower and had little control over the price he was paid for the crop.
When I planted the orchard, I sent all the apples down to the Shoreham Co-op. At harvest time, they stored them, they packed them out. All I had to do was wait for the money. And the money became kind of meager.
After a couple of successful off-farm careers, Barney Jr. returned to the farm in 1998 to find that the family business was failing.
When Barney wanted to come on board, I advised him not to at the time because financially we were having a hard time. We were struggling.
And I would say in 1998, this was not a viable business. So any type of successional planning is a moot point. When you don't have a viable business, it's not going to work. So at that point, the plan was, what's our exit strategy? And our exit strategy is liquidating the real estate. When the next generation gets involved, the ante is increased significantly because suddenly 2 families are needing to be supported rather than 1. And I looked at the business at that time, and there was no way that was going to happen doing what we were doing.
Faced with selling the farm, Barney Sr. gave his son his blessing, and Barney Jr. began selling apples out of the back of his station wagon. Over time, he built up clientele and drastically changed the business since coming on board in 1998.
Where we were a horizontally integrated business, we are now a vertically integrated business where we own our own storage, our own packing house, our own trucks. We sell much of our own fruit. We develop new relationships, completely changed the business.
Sunrise Orchards is 2 branches from the same tree. Barney Jr. and his wife Christiana own the corporation, which consists of the crop and the equipment. The real estate and the buildings are owned by Barney Sr. and his wife Pat. And now it's time to transfer those assets to the younger generation as well.
We need to invest in the infrastructure here. So far, every construction project has gone to increase the assets of my parents. And as long as they've been the primary owner of the corporation, that's been okay. But now we own the corporation, and we take on debt sometimes to build a building or make an improvement or put in a packing line, build a storage building. And whenever we're doing that, we're building the asset base of the estate, not of our own personal assets. It's not that we have a problem with that, but it just doesn't make sense to continue in that trajectory. So now we're working toward transferring real estate ownership, and that's a huge challenge. I have 2 older sisters, and we have to be open and clear and communicate as a family to try to figure that out.
What is unique about this farm is they're selling apples. They're not a dairy farm. They do a lot of direct retail selling. That's about where the uniqueness ends.
Bob Parsons, an agricultural economist with University of Vermont Extension, works with farm families on planning for a farm transfer. One of the biggest challenges in farm succession is determining what is fair and what is equal when it comes to children not involved in the farm business.
Splitting this farm up equally is not fair, but the hard decision then is if equal is not fair, then what is fair? The best solution is one that it is not rushed, but discussed with the real practicalities of the implications of what it means for everybody. so that everybody gets their feelings on the table, and then somebody has to end up making a decision. The business is successful because of the land that it is using. If we change the ownership of the land and the control of that land different from what it is today, we may be killing the business. And that's something that the parents have to realize.
Talk this through in the bigger picture.
As co-owner of Sunrise Orchards Corporation, Christiana Hodges has a significant stake in the future of this farm business. For her, communication is key.
We have had many, many discussions with Barney's sisters and his mom and dad about, the different sort of ideas we have for how to take ownership of the farm and how to continue the farm in the future. And it has taken a really long time, but I don't get the feeling that anyone is frustrated by that. I think people have come to a lot of conclusions over the last decade, and that's been really helpful. So being really patient, communicating, and I mean really deliberately, like in the form of surveys and face-to-face meetings, and just anytime you can get together and talk about it, it's really important.
Because ultimately, we all want everybody to be happy. But fair versus equal is somewhat subjective.
The Hodges believe their farm transfer will happen relatively soon. Sunrise Orchards is the Hodges family, and the Hodges family is Sunrise Orchards. For both to grow and thrive, it will take patience, communication, and understanding. And it doesn't hurt to have a little luck on your side either.
But having your son come in is a real blessing. I mean, I couldn't be luckier. If I didn't have a son coming in business, taking over the business, the farm would eventually be sold.
From father to son, and from one generation to the next, there's a lot on the horizon for Sunrise Orchards. In Cornwall, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.